Peace and love, you beautiful miracles of spiritual level of being. Nathan here from a spiritual level of being. You have a spiritual level of being. Now, a lot of people today have no idea how the Western world even received the Bible, where the Bible even came from, why it's in almost every hotel room across the world. Now, the reason why it reached the Western world is because the Catholic Church, who in 382 AD decided what was biblically canon. So, under the authority of the Catholic Church and their say-so, they decided what was canon. Before this, we had a collection of Christian writings, and during the time of Jesus, the Jewish people were arguing over what text they even considered canon or not. Their canon was not decided until 100 AD, during the Synod of Germania. Now, this being said, during Jesus' time, there were different Jewish factions, such as the Essenes, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and even Zealot Jews. Now, this being said, you had a multiple different variety of Essenes, now some of which were even Cainites and labelled a part of the Essene movement. Now, the Catholic Church and before that, the members of the Roman Church were writing down and taking control of what they considered to be the Old and New Testament. Now, this being said, they combined the two. Originally, the original Christians had problems with what they considered to be the Old Testament. Now, they considered that the Jews were worshipping multiple different gods, which got combined into the text, and scholars will definitely agree on this. This definitely happened. Now, the Catholic Church, and before them, the Roman Church, were going around persecuting other Christians, such as the Gnostics, even Jewish Christians, and the Jewish people themselves, blaming the death of Christ on the Jews, instead of the Romans. Now, this idea was in order to make the Christians Romanized, Roman citizens. Now, those who stayed accepted Rome and blamed the Jews for Jesus' death instead of the Romans. So they were sympathetic towards the Romans, so the Romans let them stay and didn't consider them Jews, as they were kicking out Christians and exiling them to Egypt under them being Jews, and some even Christians. They couldn't really tell the two apart. Now, this being said, Christianity really spread due to the Roman Empire. Now, before this, it was spreading, but it was in the form of Gnosticism. And the most successful Christian movement of its time was Manichaeism, which also, by some scholars, influenced Buddhism and even Zoroastrianism. Now, Zoroastrianism as Buddhism has even influenced Gnosticism, as Gnosticism gathered a bunch of everything, including the ancient wisdom of the Druids, the Egyptians and Greeks, and the Persians, even Mesopotamians. So it was a gathering of knowledge. So before the term Gnostic, it was Hermetic. So seeking esoteric knowledge. Now, in the ancient past, in ancient Christianity, there were multiple different texts that were favoured amongst many different ancient Christian communities. You see, they were reading each other's writings. So they all had their own understanding of what they considered to be the Christian text, of the messages and teachings of Jesus. So again, this is leaning against the idea of gnosis. So one's own gnosis, one's own spiritual understanding, one's own understanding of spiritual knowledge within. So to be like Christ, to follow the messages of Christ, to follow his teachings, to be like Christ themselves. This was the original concept. Now, because the Catholic Church wanted you to have an authority with the church, so they can control how you believe, they went around killing these other Christians with this ideology. So that way it would only leave their ideology. So it was in the form of power, control. Now, this being said, the Jewish people, who also were diverse in their idea of faith, they in turn were also arguing amongst themselves. And in the ancient past, ancient Jews were even persecuting other Jews due to Asherah belief, the worship of Baal, the worship of El. Now, Yahweh was eventually considered the main dominant god, but originally it was El. So some Jewish people held on to this belief of worshipping El. Others had a different idea of El, seeing him as an unknowable god, which in turn was a form of Gnosticism, Hermetic knowledge. So, Jewish mysticism. So the form of the Kabbalah. These teachings are the core foundations of ancient Judaism. Now, the authority of Christianity doesn't actually come from the Bible itself. It doesn't even come from the messages of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus. It's shifted towards the head of the churches. So the popes, the priest, so their say-so. So before this, it was up to the interpreter to interpret their own understanding of these texts, to share their understandings with others, to communicate others. So to experience it for themselves, to have their own personal relationship with God, the divine. So this was taken away. So in order the church to have the main dominant authority. So peace and love everyone. I love you all. Connect to all my mind and soul. Namaste.